And we're live. And why is that up there? Hey, anyway, hope everybody had a good week. Here we are Thursday. It's May 29th. We're getting near the end of the month. And, well, we'll see. Anyway, let's start with the hellos and let's see who got the cookie. Looks like Thomas Grassy got the cookie. Tom, good to see you here. Glad you're feeling better. That was a pretty close call you had there, so be careful, man. Anyway, glad to see you here and enjoy that cookie. And it looks like the station agent, that'd be Thomas Moore, he gets the half cookie. Good to see you here, Thomas. See how long you keep that name. Just messing with you. And we got Hot Dog Pie with Andy, who unfortunately got crumbs. Better luck next time, Andy, but good to see you here either way. And we have Gerald Stewart. Good to see you, Gerald. I know this kind of sucks. Tom Grassy said he just put a YouTube short up. In 45 minutes had over 1,100 views. And at 1 hour and 5 minutes, 1,200 views. And I actually went on there to check it out. And would you believe they knocked them down to 974 views. That's ScrewTube for you. They do that shit all the time. But still, good show there, Tom. Glad you got that many hits. Let's see who else we got here. We got Darren Hamill. Darren, how's it going? Good to see you here. And Dwight Curley, Curley Express. Good to see you here too, Dwight. And who else do we got? Chuck Shriver. Hey, Chuck, good to see you. And let's see, we're going down. The Bud Files. Hey, Bud, how's it going, man? Good to see you. And Joe Rader, Black Rock Central Railroad. Joe, good to see you. And I believe that's everybody so far. Pretty good deal, right? Let's see, what am I? Oh, we got Anfield Road Layout in the Loft. Lee, how's it going? Good to see you. Let's see here if I can clear that. I'm not even sure what the hell's on there. Oh, that must be that one there. There we go. Oh, stop that already. I tell you, everything's going crazy tonight. Actually, things are working really well. We've got a good signal on Comcast, amazingly. And no drop trains, speeds up in the green. And hopefully it stays that way for the remainder of the stream. Now, what is happening here, though, is that when somebody enters something in the chat, it automatically gets put on the screen now. I don't know why. I'm not sure how to stop it. Let me try this here, if that makes a difference. Anyway, Sean's Pennywise and Miser Railroad. How you doing, Sean? Good to see you here. Okay, I did turn that off. Okay, that's cool. Now, where's... Hey, it's still a little messy here. There we go. Okay, now we're back where we're supposed to be. Alright, guys. Well, anyway, what have I done this week? Well, I did a little bit. Very little. Now I'm going to show you, though. This is actually OBS, Tom. I finally got everything straightened out on OBS, and it seems to be working fairly well. I did have to roll it back. I went back to version 31.0. No, did I go back? Yeah, because I think I was at 31.0.6 or something like that. And I went back one, and that solved some of the problems. So once again, they're doing updates without actually testing anything. And I had too many problems, so we went backwards. That solved all the problems. I don't know why the volume is low again. It should be up there. Well, actually, you know what? When I did my Wise Guy video, I did turn this down because the gain was way too high. Is that better now? Hopefully. I'm gonna have to go. I have to probably go into Windows and turn it up in Windows itself. Can't do that right now, and I had forgotten about it from last time because I've pretty much got everything turned up as far as OBS goes with my microphone. I've got the gain turned way up on that one too. So yeah, I'm all the way up. So we'll see. It is better? Okay, cool. Of course, too, I never had the mic this close to me before, but I guess because something's down, I'm going to have to bring it up higher, whatever. Okay. Anyway, as long as you can hear me, that's all that matters. Hopefully I'm coming through loud and clear, or at the very least clear. So, alright, this is what I did. Here's a short video. It's a couple minutes long. Basically outlining what I have done so far on my layout. I was reading Lee's thing there, and I don't know why that's there. There is a link there. Somebody checks it out, and they can do that. Okay, I'm doing good then? Good. Okay, cool. Alright, so anyway, here's the video. Check it out. It's only a couple minutes long. It's basically an update on my layout. It's not much of one. Progress is very slow in here because I just haven't had much time to get in here and get things done. I'm going to be changing that soon, I hope, where I could put maybe a full day in at least once or twice a week to actually get something accomplished. That's my plan anyway, so we'll see how that goes. But, life sometimes gets in the way, and we have doctor's appointments and grocery shopping and chores around the house, so those have to come first. Anyway, without any further ado, here's the update. Alright, well, here we are starting here, and I've got to make the hole in the wall where that black mark is on the wall, and that's the track is that's where it's going to be going to, out to the helix when the time comes. We're coming back this way. Coming around, I think you've already seen this anyway. But now we're getting into the intermodal yard. Here's the beginning of the yard. There's the intermodal crane on its own track. And it goes all the way down to about here where it ends. And I've got another turn out there. So there'll be a secondary track going in the intermodal yard. And it goes back around this way. And then I've got to paint this whole area black for blacktop. And this is going to, well, actually it'll probably be brown for dirt. And this is going to be my staging area, or staging yard. It's going to go all the way down, probably, I'd say, possibly to the end of that box. Not quite sure. But I've got a whole bunch of turnouts here. They're going to be used for that, for the ladder. So we'll see how that goes. And hopefully I'll have that done by the time the next show comes up. We'll see. There's still a big mess here, so no trains running as of yet. I've really got to start cleaning up this area. But I have been busy, so. But anyway, that's where we're at. So stay tuned for more as we make a little bit of progress here and there. Thanks for watching. So that's just a short synopsis of what I've been doing. I know it's not much, but it's something. I got painting to do. And I want to get the brown down for the staging area. I'll try and get that out of the way. Hopefully, maybe the next couple of days. And then I've got to go back over where the intermodal is and do all that blacktop. And I know some of you probably, well, why didn't I do that before I laid the track? Very good question. Wish I had a good answer, but I wasn't thinking, and I just got it in my head to lay the track, and I said, well, I'll worry about the paint later. But I'll get all that done, hopefully, like I said, maybe this coming week, or maybe over the weekend, hard telling. That's true, Tom. It does take time. No doubt about that. You know, and I'm not in a big hurry. Oh, looks like, where did he go? The Gigliottis. Hey, Ray, how's it going? Good to see you here, man. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not really in a big hurry. Not really. I mean, you know, I get done what I get done. And a lot of it, I think, is I'm a little bit overwhelmed in here. I mean, that's a terrible term to use because I don't generally get overwhelmed. But I really just need to sit down and say, all right, where do I want to start doing the cleanup? And I got to find a place to put things. That's my biggest problem right now. I was using the second level for like a storage area for all the overflow. And now I can't really do that because I'm working up there. Now, my wife has a folding table. I borrowed it once before. I may have to borrow it again. And set it up in here to put the overflow in. And then maybe I can get everything organized on the lower level. Because basically I just got shit scattered everywhere. And it looks like hell, and it's not making my life any easier or making progress any easier. Then the problem is if you got too much of a mess in too much of a big area, you're not really sure where to begin or how to go about cleaning it up. So I got to work on that, but I'll get to it at some point. Hopefully, anyway. So, but that's what I've been doing in here. Now, I did a short today. I don't know if anybody's seen it or not. I have a Dalton water filter. It's a gravity feed filter in the house. It's a lot like a Berkey filter. You know, you guys probably know more about Berkeys than you do Daltons. They're basically the same configuration with a different name. It's a stainless steel container, 2 pieces. You got your filters up top. You fill it full of water. It filters, removes the fluoride, all the bad stuff, leaves the good stuff in, and then the bottom level is where your clean water hangs out. And I just recently bought a new spigot for it because the old one has been on there for many years. I bought this thing probably 15 years or so, maybe longer. It's been a while. I paid crazy. I think I paid almost $400 for it. But I'll tell you what, it's the only way I'll drink the water. I will not drink tap water unfiltered. Even though my refrigerator has a filter in it, I use the ice out of it, which is filtered, but the water itself, I mean, I know the ice is basically just frozen water. But I don't even like using the ice too much because it doesn't take out the fluoride or some of the bad chemicals. Where my Dalton does. The problem I had with the Dalton was, if it sits on the counter or tabletop or whatever, the spigot at the bottom is only about this far away from the countertop. So you have to kind of hang it over the edge in order to fill a glass. I said, that's kind of stupid. I said, I wonder if somebody makes a stand for this thing. So Dalton doesn't, but Berkey does. So I got on thinking, was it Thingiverse? No, it was Colts 3D. They had a free file for this stand that sits 18 centimeters high, which I think is about 8 or 9 inches, somewhere around there, which is perfect for getting a pretty tall glass underneath it without any effort. So I decided to print it, and initially it said it was a 22-hour print. But at the end of 22 hours, I was only at 51%. So I'm going, well, obviously it's going to be a little longer. So I wound up taking 39.7 hours. Might as well call it 40 hours. So it just finished late this morning from, 2 days ago. And it came out nice. My wife wants to paint it because I went out and I bought gray film and I bought 5 spools again. Because I was completely out of filament anyway after I did that DCC decoder holder for Joe Rader. So I went ahead and ordered 5 rolls of the gray. So now I've got plenty of filament again. The beauty of this stand, it didn't take much filament at all. And I thought after 40 hours, nearly 40 hours of printing, it would have wiped out about half the spool. Well, it barely touched the spool. I still got better than 3/4 of the filament left on it. You can see over my shoulder there. So that was pretty slick, and like I said, it did a nice job. So that's been running non-stop for 40 hours. And I'm really lucky because we had a couple of storms. We had one last night and the night before, and I was afraid the power would go out or at least flicker. I mean, I won't lose the work, but I'd have to come out here and reset it. But fortunately, the power remained stable and was able to complete the job. And that's the only problem you run into when you're doing these long-ass jobs. I should have a UPS hooked up to it, an uninterruptible power supply. I had one. And I buy these, well, they're not really cheap, but they're not on the high end for quality. They don't last but maybe 6 months, and then they take a shit. So I threw the one away that I had. That's like the 3rd one already. So, now the problem with, of course, now, you guys with filament printers, almost every filament printer, at least the modern ones anyway, ones made in the last, so I would say 10 or 15 years, all have memories in them, and if you lose power, when the power comes back on, you just hit continue or resume, and it picks up the work like nothing happened. The only problem with other printers, resin printers, at least the ones I have, if the power goes out, you lose the job. You got to start over again. So if you were, say, 3/4 of the way through a 6-hour job on your resin printer, guess what? You got to start over again. I mean, I guess if you had a UPS on there, it'd be okay. But you'd want a good one that would actually hold the power for several hours because, you don't know how long the power is going to be out. So, once again, it depends how much money you want to throw into your resin printing setup. But it would probably be a smart idea to put a UPS on there. So, I don't have one on either one of mine, so I take my chances. But most of my prints, now except for the car bodies took, I think, between 8 and 10 hours of printing. And I start them early in the morning, so they're usually done in the evening. And the chances of a power failure during the day are pretty slight in most cases, so I haven't had any problems yet. But I wouldn't trust it to go overnight. That's true, Tom. That's a good idea too, Tom. I never thought about that. And I could do that too as well. I mean, I have shelves under there now. I've got those plastic cases. I don't know if you can see these or not. I really can't see them from here, but further down underneath on both sides, there are 3-drawer cases. They're plastic from Walmart. I've got 3 of them on the left side and 4 on the right side. and that's where I'm storing some things there. But they're drawers, though. I mean, they're what I need is a flat surface like a table for storing stuff temporarily. You know, 'cause I got all this crap up on here. I mean, I've got boxes, I've got cars, got track sections. That stuff can all sit easily on a flat table. And that's why I said I'll probably borrow the folding table again from my wife and go from there. Let's see. All right, Lee, have a good one, man. Thanks for popping in. Hey, Russ is rocking on HO Trades and stuff. How you doing, Russ? Good to see you here. Let's see. Now, Tom says the UPS units for inside the home are designed to have printers connected to them. They are mainly used for... Well, that's true. You want to get a good one for a printer. Now, fortunately, the filament printers and the resin printers are low draw. Now, if you try to use a UPS on your paper printer, like my Epson, it'll probably fry the UPS pretty quickly. Well, I don't know about the Epson, but I know I've got a Xerox laser printer in the house. I can't plug that into my UPS, and I have a large UPS for that one, you know, for the main computer. And I can't run the printer on it. It just it trips it every time. So they said you have to make sure you also get a unit big enough to handle what you're doing with it. But they're handy to have. I mean, you know. But now for the computer, it's almost a must because you don't want to take a chance frying a motherboard or anything, you know, from a power surge or a brownout or any other problems like that. I don't even have a UPS on this computer, but I have one on the big one in the house. So, as long as one of them survive, I'll be okay. Let's see. So anyway, that's part, like I said, that's part of the problem. I've got to find a place to put some of these extra. I mean, I've got stuff everywhere. Nothing really is organized right now except for a little bit up top. So I've got to get that straightened out, and once I do, I think things will be a little smoother in that respect too. And, you know, I mean, I can't do the expansion to the shed probably until late this year, if even. And that may depends what happens with property taxes. Now, our governor here in Florida, well, he keeps flip-flopping. We don't know what the hell he's doing, but at first he wanted to eliminate property taxes for all the residents. Then he decided that was too expensive, so he's going to do it just for those 65 and older, which I'm for that because, you know, I'm 65. And then he went from there to just giving a $1,000 rebate to all homeowners, which that would work for me too because I pay $1,300 a year in property tax, and the $300 is mostly non-ad valorem, you know, for the garbage pickup and the fire department. So the actual property tax is about $1,000. So if they gave me a $1,000 rebate, I just have to generate $300, which ain't nothing. And even if they did away with the property tax, you still have to pay non-ad valorem. So, you know, I'm going to be throwing down $300 no matter what. But I'm okay with that. But like I said, I don't know what he's going to do or when he's going to do it, or even if he's going to do it. He's kind of pissing me off because, you know, you say you're going to do something, fucking do it. Don't sit around and talk about it or argue about it. Just get it done, for Christ's sake, you know. We'll have to wait and see. But now if there's no property tax for me, That'll free up, $1,000. I could buy both sheds, one for the helix and one for the expansion, the secondary room here, and problem solved. Otherwise, I may have to wait till the beginning of the year to start that project. So we'll see. See, Tom says, all my 3D printers, Epson and Canon laser, will stay on in a power outage because I have two. Yeah, I know you got all that fancy solar stuff going on in your house, and the batteries and stuff. Must be nice. I can't afford that, or believe me, I would have it too. And there's Dundas Junction Model Railroad. James, how's it going? Good to see you here. So, James goes, my property taxes are $500 a month. A month? Holy shit. The hell are you living in Canada for? I get the hell out of Canada if I had to pay $500 a month in property tax. That's ridiculous. Bunch of thieving bad. Well, you know why, don't you? Because you got all that free medical that's not really free. That's what's paying your medical bill right there. Your monthly taxes. Joe says, our liberal commie governor just raised tax. Yeah, I don't doubt that. Well, that's not. Now, I know Trump talked about eliminating property tax too, but that kind of went, it came and went real quick. And as much as I hate to admit it, he might have been talking out of his ass on that one. The thing is, if you're paying property taxes, you never truly own your home. You're renting it. Now, my house is paid for, just mine, my name only. I hold the deed. But I don't own it, because if I don't pay the taxes, the fucking state will come in and take it away from me, or at least try to. I mean, I would put up a fight, because what the fuck? But, it's ridiculous. And that's why they need to do away with it. They didn't have property taxes prior to 1913. And they were able to do all the infrastructure. The schools worked. The roads were built. Why can't we do it now? So it sounds like it's just free money for the government, and they need to get off of that shit. Tom says, Jim, if they took away my property taxes, my mortgage would be cut. Oh, of course it would, yeah, because it's integrated into your mortgage. I know, but it's like I said, it's ridiculous, And Jersey has some of the highest property taxes in the country. I mean, I'm from Jersey, but I couldn't afford to live there. Not on what I get. So, it's crazy. James says we will be mortgage free next year, we hope. Well, that's a good thing. But you still have to pay property taxes. Now, if they did away with the property taxes, now you're talking. Now, I don't know what they're going to do in Canada. Because like I said, your free medical, that's how it's being funded. At least that's my understanding of it anyway. Same with England. England has outrageous taxes because they have the same medical system you do. And people say, well, we're getting free medical. No, you're not. Nothing is fucking free. You're paying for it. You just don't realize that you're paying for it. And the thing is, if you're healthy, you're paying for everybody else's. And that shouldn't be either. So I know, that's what I said, Tom. It's outrageous, And no one knows why. I mean, the fact that it's a blue state probably doesn't help, but, you would think New York would be worse, but I understand that Jersey is actually worse than New York. Go figure. So, I don't know, but, so like I said, it does make a difference on what I do. because I make X amount of dollars a year. I can't go out and make more money. So I'm kind of, limited to how I can spend my money depending what things are doing. So that's why I said I may get it done this year. I may not. We'll have to wait and see. It's okay though. I'm not worried about it. I'll get it done eventually. And even after I put the shed up for the Helix, I still have to build a Helix. Now I'm going to custom build one. Tom Grassi sent me a one of the pieces to his, an extra piece he had that I could use as a template. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make my Helix pieces out of that template, and then the uprights that hold it in, I'm going to print those on my 3D printer, because he gave me one I could use as a template. I could duplicate that for 3D printing. The nice thing about that is because the one he gave me is basically cardboard, or gator board I think they call it, which is a fancy term for stiff cardboard. And I'll make it out of plastic, out of PLA, so it'll be very, very rugged and won't have any issues with sagging or anything like that. So we'll see how that goes. But, once again, I got to get the shed there before I can build the Helix. So, and the shed's cheap. It's $200, well, $189 for a 4x6. Now I got to make absolutely sure that I can fit it within that 4x6, because technically it's going to be the inside dimensions are going to be pretty close to 4. I'm not going to worry about putting inner walls in or anything like that for that. It's unnecessary. It'll be vented for excessive heat. But short of that, there's no other reason to insulate it or put interior walls in, which would, eat up some space. I would lose, probably about 3 inches on each wall with insulation and the fairing strips and the drywall. So there's no reason to put it in. Now in the expansion room, that'll go on the up behind me, that'll be insulated, inner walls, ceiling, everything else, just like in here. But for the Helix, metal shed's fine. Don't need anything special. Dundas says, James says, Thomas Grassi, our government crooks just got a big raise. Of course they did. And Tom says, Jim, it's because of the dumbass Dems that have been in control for me. That's true. Well, I said it's a blue state. And for some reason, the people of New Jersey won't vote them out. I don't get it. And Sean says, property tax affects us all and what we can afford to do. That's true, it does. And James says, Sean, yes, it affects my train budget. Well, it affects all our train budgets, especially if you're on a fixed income of any sort. It's going to make it tough for you no matter how you look at it, Especially if it's not, if it goes up every year or changes every year, you have to work around that. And that's, once again, a real pain in the ass. Russ says, I have dumbass Dems in my state too, Tom. They have had control here forever, over 40 years. I know. And I don't know if they're cheating to stay in, which I've always suspected that might be the case. Or if the people really are that stupid, Why would you keep voting somebody in that raises your taxes, elevates your crime rate, lets your inner cities get worse and worse every year? I can go on down the line. I'm not going to, but Why would you keep voting for the same people? That's like Nancy Pelosi. Have you ever seen her district? It's a shithole. And they've been putting her in there for over, what, 20-some years? Why? I think she's cheating. I think all the Dems are cheating. And nobody's really paying attention, so they get back in, they rig the votes. And nobody questions it. The only time it got questioned, of course, was for the presidency because, well, it was so obvious what they did in 20. So, but I suspect they've been doing that all along everywhere, but nobody was paying attention. My best guess, anyway, because like I said, it's hard for me to believe that people really are that stupid. I know there's a lot of dumbasses out there, but you're going beyond dumbass now. You're talking, village idiot class to keep putting the same people in term after term after term when things are just getting worse around you. They're not going to fix it. They've already proven they can't or won't. Just my opinion for what it's worth, but hey, John Train, BFGR. How you doing, John? Good to see you here. Had to pay my property tax today as well. That sucks. You pay twice a year. I know some places do. I think it's Ohio they pay twice a year. I'm sure other states do as well. I'm not familiar with them. Because I was actually kicking around moving up to Ohio some years back. And I found out that they had twice a year property tax. I'm going, well, fuck that. Not enough to bend you over once. They want to bend you over a second time, too. Tom says, Jim, they gave all the illegals a driver's license, and that way they can vote for the Dems. We have millions of illegals in this state. Asshole governor made this a thing. Yeah. Well, that's going to change under Trump, I hope. I still say he's going about this the wrong way, though. The best way to get rid of all... My impression of my belief is that there are over 50 million illegals in this country. Not just Mexicans, but of all races and nationalities. Approximately 50 million illegals are in this country. You're not going to get rid of them anytime soon. If they threw out 1,000 a day, it would still take years to get rid of 50 million of them. So the smart move is to let them self-deport. And the best way for that to happen is Trump needs to get up on TV, sign some executive orders or go through Congress and the Senate and make law that basically cuts off all the free shit. If you're illegal, you don't get welfare, you don't get food stamps, you don't get job assistance, you don't get nothing. No free medical, no free rent, nothing. And anybody who hires one, $50,000 fine and 5 years in prison. Automatic. If you're a landlord and you rent to one, $50,000 fine, 5 years in prison. Any state that gives one a driver's license or a Social Security job, Social Security card. $50,000 fine, 5 years in prison for the idiot that gave it to him. You'll see all that shit come to a screeching halt because nobody wants to go to prison to make it easier for an illegal to get free money. Well, when the illegals, they can't get anything, there's no reason for them to be here. Well, we can't get food. We can't get housing. We can't get medical attention. Can't get a job. Can't even get a driver's license. Same with if you sell one a car. Same deal. $50,000 fine, 5 years in prison. They're not going to have any choice but say, we got to get the hell out of America. This place sucks. We're going somewhere else. They'll self-deport. 50 million of them will leave literally overnight. They could be gone within a matter of weeks or months. You know? This is what needs to be done. Rounding them up and throwing them out of the country is great, but it's not going to get anything accomplished on a big level. Even if I'm wrong, and let's say there's only 14 million that they claim. 14 million people, that's a lot of damn people when they're only picking up 100 or 2 a day, sometimes not even. Trump won't be president long enough to get them all out of here. And we're still giving them all the free shit. Stop giving them anything. Make it a serious crime, a felony, to enable an illegal. It will stop and they'll leave. And if they turn the crime, Trump once again needs to get up on TV and say, all right, here's the deal. If any illegal commits a crime, I don't care whether it's stealing a piece of bubble gum out of the store or robbing your grandmother or raping your wife or whatever, you have the ultimate authority and permission to kill them. Now they're going to go, well, shit, we can't get no more free shit, and if we steal anything, them motherfuckers are going to kill us. We got to get the fuck out of Dodge. And they'll leave. And that's the only way you're going to fix this problem. Trust me on that. Sean says, I'm not defending government because I work for municipal government. I see what things cost to operate, but also see the waste and it burns my ass. Well, of course it does. I was watching a YouTube video the other day and they said they found out that they were spending $10 billion a year on leases for buildings that they don't even have anybody in. They're paying $10 billion a year to lease buildings that nobody's using. They gotta stop that shit. Holy shit, John. 4 times a year to hit you up for taxes? What the fuck? Where the hell do you live? I mean, never live there. Russ says, we inherited morons from California, and they have become a super majority here. I vote for Republicans every time. Always have. Yeah, but there's not enough of you. Now, I know what you're talking about. You're in what, in Washington State or Oregon? I can never remember, but they need to split that state. You know, because there's some parts are really red and other parts are really blue. But the blue have the big cities, and they're going to override the smaller towns, and that's what's been happening for a number of years. Sean says, I paid my taxes down monthly. And James says, Sean, they're getting ready to bore a new subway tunnel in Toronto. Yeah, y'all be paying for that too. Sean says, I heard that, James, but it's going to be quite a problem. Of course it will. 40 meters below. Oh, holy shit. I wonder if they're going to use Elon Musk's boring tool for that. It sounds like they probably should, right? Yeah, it does a little bit, doesn't it? Yeah, sorry guys, couldn't help myself. And Russ says, I think there's more like 80 to 100 million illegals, but yeah. Oh, it's hard to say, but I think there's literally at least 50. There may be more. But they come here because we give them free shit. And meanwhile, we fuck over our own people, you know. I can't get food stamps. I don't qualify. I make too much money. You know, I get $1,400 a month. No, $1,500 a month. And I make too much money. I have bills. I don't have a mortgage, but still, you know, I don't have a lot left over at the end of the month. I mean, I do buy my own food, and I'm probably spending $300 or $400 a month on food for me and the wife, you know, because we gotta eat, and we can't get food stamps. We don't qualify. But some goddamn illegal can walk in here with 40 kids, and they'll get $1,000 a month in food stamps. And what do they buy with it? Fucking junk food. It's bullshit. It ain't right, man. So I don't know what's going to happen, but James says a Canadian won NBA MVP West. Oh, no shit. That's cool, I guess. I don't keep up with sports, but yeah, that could be a good thing. Hey, Raymond Anthony, 127. How you doing? Good to see you here. I figured you just got here. So anyway, so yeah, I'm going to be doing a little bit here and there and here, as much as I can, actually, because like I said, we got so many things going on. You know, my wife's Medicare finally kicked in. The beginning of this month, actually, I think it was May 1st. So, you know, of course, the doctors are scrambling to get her in for wellness checks and this and that and everything else, you know. She's not really happy about it, but I said, well, you know, you got to take advantage of it. And I says, you know, you should at least get a good blood test done and get a good checkup. At least you know where you stand, and then you can figure out whether you can blow off the rest of the doctors or not. Because, you know, if you let them, you'll be spending your entire life seeing doctors. I mean, you know, even I have to be careful of that, because, you know, oh, let's see you again in 2 weeks. Why? Because we got to do a follow-up of what? You know, I take warfarin, or Coumadin, as some people know it better, but I take the generic. And it's because I had a stroke, you know, and it's also for atrial fibrillation, but I got the AFib taken care of, and matter of fact, that's what James from Dundas Junction is probably dealing with right now. Probably AFib. Well, I had the operation done. It seemed to be successful. But because I had the stroke and because I had the AFib, they said, you know, really, we should keep your blood a little bit thinner than normal because we don't want you getting another stroke. I said, well, I don't either, you know. So I take the warfarin because I can adjust it accordingly. And if something happens, let's say I have emergency surgery, they could give me a shot of vitamin K, which will completely undo the warfarin, so I won't bleed out during a surgery. And that's why I picked the warfarin, because I figured, you know, you never know. So every 2 weeks I do what's called an INR self-test. They gave me a machine and a little strip on it, and I do the thing. I draw blood and put it in there, and I have to be between, well, it has to be under 3, or was it, preferably about 2.5. Or between, well, because they don't want it too high, they want it to be too low. Normally it stays pretty steady, but every now and then it doesn't. It changes. So I took mine last week, and it was 1.6. It's really supposed to be between 2 and 3. Now, 2.5 is preferable, but as long as it's 2 or 2, 2.1, 2.2, all the way up to 2, all the way up to 3, it's okay. If it goes 3.1, that's too high. If it goes 1.9, that's too low. So 1.6, I had to make an adjustment, and sometimes I forget. I've been doing this shit for 7 years, you know, or thereabouts. And so I forget, do I take more warfarin or less warfarin to change the numbers? So just to be on the safe side, I asked my doctor. He says, well, my INR threw a 1.6. Should I take more warfarin or less? He said, well, no, you need to take more. They should take the 5 milligrams 6 days of the week and 2.5 on Saturday. I said, all right, I can do that. He said, then of course it'll probably bring it back, and they'll have to modify it again because it'll go over. So it's like, that's like a maintenance, I guess you call it a maintenance dose. Or, no, I guess that wouldn't be a maintenance dose, but it'll get it back in line. But then to keep it in line, I'll have to adjust it again. That I can do on my own. So because they threw it low like that, he decided he needed to see me in 2 weeks. He doesn't do it. He doesn't have the ability or the machine to check my INR. I still have to check my own. So I'm going to check my own in, I think, 8 more days. I'll be due again. And if it's fine, because I have to call it in on the computer to the company that loans me the machine, and then of course they report back to my doctor sometimes. So it's ridiculous. Like I said, I can handle it myself. There's no good reason to go see the doctor every time some little thing comes up. But because of, I have Medicare Advantage, so they take advantage of it. Oh yeah, well, you got to come back and see us, and for what? Yeah. And at some point I'll say, you know what? I ain't doing it. You're wasting my time, and my time is valuable. So it just depends how things go. Russ says the Dems are laughing their asses off. They know Trump will only be able to deport a small fraction of illegals during his term. They already guaranteed a shitload of. Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's commendable what he's doing, but it's not going to work. Because whoever replaces him, let's say Vance gets in there, the vice president. Now, Vance may have the same idea. I don't know. But Vance is only going to get 8 years. And that ain't going to be enough to get the motherfuckers out either. It might take 20 years to get 50 or 80 million, or however many there are here, to get them the hell out. In the meantime, they're still eating up our resources. Shut the damn money off. And make it a crime, a serious crime, to aid any of them. Same thing, if you're a judge and you hide or try and aid an illegal, you don't just get removed from the bench. 5 years in prison, $50,000 fine. Fuck it. Make it apply to everybody. That's the only way to fix this shit. Joe says, same here, Jim. They claim I make too much. 21 grand a year is too much. I know, that's below poverty level. Same thing I'm making. Actually, you're making less than I am with the rent they get from from my mother-in-law. I got 23,400, something like that last year. And I have to pay taxes on it, which is a good thing. I come in under for taxes, but I don't qualify for food stamps. And I wouldn't mind having them. It would help, I'm not going to buy junk food with them. I'll buy good food because that's what I do. But, I don't even need a lot, man. Give me $200 worth of food stamps. That's what I'm spending now, in the local stores. Because I buy most of my meats from Omaha Steak Company. And I spend just under $200 a month with them. And that feeds both me and my wife, hot dogs, hamburgers, sometimes chicken, different things. But, we get good food from them, and it is good food. Or if I bought it locally, I couldn't afford to do that. That's ridiculous. Plus the food's garbage anyway. But, most of your, what the fuck do you call it? I can't remember. Your common foods like pastas or pierogies or French fries or potatoes, some vegetables. That stuff I buy local because it's easier and at least I can look and see what I'm buying, But I'm still spending ridiculous money, I really, I could afford it, sorta. but it would be nice if I didn't have to. You know, it's all overpriced. Hey, $5 for a loaf of rye bread, and I go through two or three loaves a month. You know, it's ridiculous. This stuff shouldn't even be a fucking dollar. But I have no control over that, so. Tom says, when I go to the store, I can tell who has food stamps just by what's in their baskets. First, they have multiple baskets, and second, mostly junk food. Yeah, exactly. It's the absolute truth. I see it all the time, too. You see these Mexican women go in there with 4 or 5 kids. They got 2 carts, sometimes 3, filled with crap. You know, none of it's good food. Not really. You got sodas, you got candies, you've got cakes, you know, junk food. And their little fucking kids are all little fat bastards anyway, because they're all eating that crap to begin with, you know. I know Trump wants to change that, but I guess he's running into some problems with that. It's unfortunate, it really is. Oh yeah, you're absolutely right, Joe. I saw one the other day. It Winn-Dixie. Fucking raggedy fucking dressed Mexican woman. 2 or 3 kids. I think she had 2 kids with her. They weren't dressed that well. They're loading up all the junk food in this fucking Escalade. Couldn't have been more than 2 years old. Now I'm thinking, that's an $80,000 truck, you know. How the fuck did they get this? I mean, they may not have bought it new. I'm sure even a used one's probably still in the 40 grand range, at least. How do they get these cars? That's what I want to know. And they still qualify for food stamps. You know. Bullshit. And James says, I was in AFib twice yesterday. Almost went to the hospital again, but stable today. Yeah, I went through the same thing, James. I mean, that was crazy. I kept going back to the emergency room because my heart rate would go up, you know, like 200, 250. I mean, I think at one time it hit 300. I was afraid my heart was going to explode, you know. And plus I felt like shit, you know. I go there and say, you know, there's something wrong. I got, you know, my blood pressure saying I've got a unusual heart rate. And so they you know, they strap me down, they do an EKG, they do this. Nope, you're fine. And of course, by that point, I felt better, so apparently it cleaned up. And like, I think I went there like 5 times in like 2 weeks. And the last time, I mean, they were just really just, I don't think they believed me anymore, you know, so they're getting ready to discharge me, and nurse came in and unhooked the machines, and she goes, holy shit, runs out of the room, grabs the doctor, and they caught it. It was actually, I went into AFib just before they were ready to throw me out of the hospital. And then, oh, yeah, you got AFib. And like, well, duh. You know, do you think I was fucking lying to you? You know, you think I enjoyed coming to the ER 5 fucking times in 2 weeks? The fuck is wrong with you people? So like I said, well, they put me on medications at first because that was the thing they do. I mean, that day they put me on medications, and I was taking 2 different meds. But they told me, they said, the problem with these meds is they will stop working within 5 years. So I'm going, well, then what the fuck do I do? You know? Well, you know, I don't know. Well, they got a procedure they can do. They go in and they clip a nerve that causes this. They said, well, line me up for it, you know. Because, I mean, if I only got 5 years before the drug don't work, you basically tell me 5 years I'm probably going to die. You know. So they did. They set me up with the specialist, and it was about 3 or 4 weeks later. It was a 45-minute operation. I don't think I had insurance for it because it was $45,000, but they went in through the artery just like they do when they're cleaning out your arteries, and They go in there and they clip this one nerve inside your heart that controls the AFib, or they said that I guess the nerve goes bad or something, and that's why it goes crazy. Once they clip that, the problem goes away. So they said it was a success. They took me off the medications, and I'm still here. You know, my heart's actually my heart rate's pretty steady now. It runs between 68 and 76, depending upon what I'm doing. So of course the pacemaker, I'm sure, affects that to some point too. But yeah, I would recommend that procedure to anybody who has AFib, because the drugs they don't necessarily work that well anyway. But in the meantime, until you get the procedure, yeah, you need the drugs. Yeah, well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's just, to my knowledge, the only way they can fix that is to snip that nerve. They burn it actually with a laser. Tom says, did anybody see the ad for the senior spending card? No, what the fuck is that? I want one. Well, I don't either, Joe. Like I said, I don't make enough money yet. I mean, that could change at some point. Now, I know Trump is trying to get all Social Security people off of taxes. I haven't filed since '07. When I got disabled, because I just haven't made enough money to pay anything. So I still check it every year, though, just to make sure. But they need, like I said, they're taking too much money from us. They got tax for this, tax for that over there, tax. Fuck that. You're actually paying something like, I read somewhere it was like 65% of your income is actually taxed one way or the other. 65% of the money you make, $65 out of every 100, is paying some fucking tax. That shit ain't right, man. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Russ. Some of my friends are turning against him now because of the tariffs and all that, but I understand what he's doing. I'm not quite sure he's. The problem is Trump plays 3D or 4D chess, and none of us know how to play 4D chess. I don't. So a lot of the people don't understand what he's actually doing. He may understand it, and it may work. I think at this point, let him do his thing. If it fails, well, we'll be up his ass. But if he succeeds, and remember, the Democrats are looking for any excuse they can to make him look bad. They're lying, making up stories. Just everything they're doing. They hate Trump with so much passion that literally, if he had the powers of Jesus Christ, they would still hate him. It's just the way it is. There's nothing you can do about it. Gerald says, my mother-in-law had an AFib attack while in the doctor's office. Well, she was lucky. At least they were able to pick it up quick. All right, Sean, have a good one, man. Thanks for popping in. And we'll see you next time. Hey, Floyd Robbins. How you doing, Floyd? Good to see you. Yeah, I was a little confused with the diesel print. He sent me, or somebody, was it you that, yeah, you that sent me the print, the file. It was in 1/25th scale. I scaled it down to 1/87th, and it is accurate. And then sent it back to you. I assume you sent it to whoever needed it. But it was kind of confusing the way you worded it. Were they able to use it or were they not? I don't understand. That was a little confusing there. Russ goes, taxpayer funded spending card, no doubt. Yeah, probably. And I did correct that thing for Sparky's meet and greet, which I'll be putting up in a little bit. So, matter of fact, I can put it up now while I'm thinking about it. I told you I'm going to do this every week until August anyway. So this is Sparky's meet and greet. This will be happening in August. Let's see, which is August 22nd, 23rd, and 24th of this year. It'll be in Canada. And basically this is a let me tell you what they're going to do Friday, which I guess will be the 24th. Starts at 4 p.m. with a tour in Salford of the shops for the Ontario Southland Railway. And after shopping spree at OVR, that's Otter Valley Railroad Hobbies, in Tilsonburg, and to top the night off, back to Sparky's Train Shed. And Saturday, the next day, 9 a.m. start in St. Thomas with a tour of the ex-NYC Conrail Museum, train station, and the RX and the BX Tower. And then on to Waterloo Central Railroad by 2 p.m. for a train ride that starts at 2:15 p.m. for a 1 hour long ride, and upon return we'll get a shop tour at 3:30. And as something special, there will be a dinner train leaving at 5:30 p.m. This is limited to 42 guests, so get your reservation early. Don't miss out, and make your reservation with Sparky for this one, and follow Sparky 107 on YouTube. And then Sunday, which would be the 24th, they're going to meet at 9 a.m. at Mini Print headquarters in Toronto. That's Bernard's thing. Where we'll rail fan the Canadian via Toronto to Vancouver passenger train at around 10 a.m. At 11 a.m. we'll go to Little Canada, an HO scale layout with many animations featuring HO scale trains and road traffic, plus other animated features. That sounds cool. After, we will go to the Toronto Railway Museum to see some of the behind the public scenes trains that they are working on. Sounds like a fun 3 days, so for all you guys that can make it, that'll be a neat thing for you. I can't do it. I don't have the money, or really I don't have a passport either, so I can't go into Canada. But for those of you who can, I would urge you to do so. I think you'll have a great time. And once again, thank you, Sparky, for sponsoring this meet and greet. So there you have it. Let's see here. John Train says you have worked till the middle of June to pay all the taxes. After that, the money you earn you can keep. Yeah, it's probably not even accurate. But even then, that's still half the year that you're fucked. So 6 months of your pay goes to taxes. The other 6 months you actually get to keep and do what you want with it. Supposedly. I ain't buying that for a fucking minute. No problem, Floyd. Appreciate it. Like I said, I put up your latest one that you sent me. I didn't notice any typos in the first one, but then again, I wasn't paying attention. But hopefully, you know, like I said, those who can go, that'll be a lot of fun. I wish I could go, but it's just not possible. It's not going to happen. And I say this every week, that You got to get something closer to Florida. Like maybe Georgia. You know, if you do something in Georgia, I'll drive up to Georgia for a meet and greet. Preferably I'd like Florida instead, but I would go as far as Georgia. But beyond that, I mean, that just, it's too much of a hardship for me to go any further than that. So it is what it is. Floyd says there's still time to get tickets for the dinner train. Yeah, I think he said he had 22. The other, oh, it was on shit. It was on Dave Thurber's Tuesday show. I think he said he had 22 sold already. Or he had 22 left, because he says a total of 42. So yeah, if you're going to go up there, make sure you make that reservation for the dinner train. It was actually grammar. Okay, that's probably why I didn't catch it. I don't pay much attention to that shit. You know, I'm not a grammar Nazi, so, you know. God knows I make enough mistakes myself, so I just don't worry about it. But anyway, I'm more than happy to promote it, and like I said, every week I will. And I hope it's a very big success for Sparky and all those who can attend for it. So, what else we got going here? That's, you know, speaking of models, you know, model cars, I've got 4 model cars that I'm actually supposed to be working on. I haven't touched a one of them in months. I've got the 73 Le Mans, the tandem axle one. I've got the 65 Malibu SS. I got a 66 Mustang. And I got the NASCAR Ford. I think it's the Ford T-Bird maybe. I don't remember, but it's a NASCAR car. And I haven't touched one of them in, you know, literally 2 months. I will get to it though eventually. It's just a question of when. Sparky says he prefers picture books too. There you go. Jim does not speak good Canadian. No, I do not. Hell, I don't speak good Floridian for that matter. You know. I don't know. Like I said, it is what it is. I don't worry about it, you know. I try and be grammatically correct. I try to follow punctuation and spelling. I mean, that was my thing in school. But, you know, it's been a long time since I've been in school, and I'm at the point where I really don't give a fuck. So, you know, it is what it is. And I don't hold it against anybody else either. I mean, we all do it. We all make, you know, spelling errors, forget punctuation marks, commas, or whatever. But, I mean, I know what you're trying to say, and that's all that matters, right? Or you know what I'm trying to say. So who really cares whether it's proper grammar or not, you know? Not like we're going to get an award for any of it. Because, you know, nobody gives a fuck. Alright. Have a good one, Joe. Thanks a lot, man. And, did you like those, I know you got them already. Did you like your DCC decoder holders? Did they come out good for you, I hope? Hope you're happy with them. So, yeah, so at least now I got plenty of filament to do more printing. Because they said when I ran out, it's like, oh shit, now what? I've got tons of resin for the resin printer. I just really haven't had anything worth printing lately except for that Berkey holder stand, you know. I'm good. I'm glad to hear that, Joe. Thank you. No typo shaming here. I hope not, because like I said, we're all guilty of it. I don't say nothing. I don't care. I know what you're trying to say. Good enough for me, and if I don't, I'll ask. But not a big deal. Who cares? Yeah, right. So what's next? I don't really know. Like I said, I've got big plans for in here, but it's going to take some time, and that's fine because there's no point getting a big hurry over it. you know, I mean, hopefully I'll live long enough to see it finished. Um, so that too is another reason why I'm not in a big hurry to finish it. Because my luck, I'd finish it and then drop dead. That would suck. Right? So I'd rather take my time and just go along a little bit here and there and just keep working on it, and hopefully I'll get it to a point where I'm proud to show it off. I know I have a lot of work to do here. This is not the best that I could do, but I am working on it. I want to upgrade and get more detail going, because detail is the name of the game. I mean, like I said, you look at Dave Thurber or Tom Grassi or any one of you guys, really. You got a lot of detail on your layouts, and that's what makes a difference. So I want to do the same thing, and like I said, I want to do something different as well. And you guys gave me some pretty good ideas last week, for things to put up there, because I've got a lot of room up there, and on that side anyway, and of course even on the back, because on either side of the intermodal there's a lot of room there where I could put stuff in. And like I said, I'm not sure where I'm going to go yet, but we'll do something. Russ goes, what do you think of the big beautiful bill? Well, from what I've heard, it sounds good. I know the Democrats are trying to make it look like, the end of the world. And there's so much talk about, Trump's going to do away with Medicare and Medicaid, and he's going to cut food stamps. And, well, yes and no, And the problem is that, yes, he is going to cut some of those things. But it's a good thing, because if you're in your 20s or 30s or 40s, able-bodied and can work and make a living, but choose to stay home and play on your iPad instead and collect, food stamps or Medicare or whatever, Medicaid, he wants to put a stop to that. And I agree with him 100%. If you need the stuff, that's fine. But if you're sitting on your dead ass playing video games, smoking cigarettes, getting drunk, or whatever the fuck you're doing, instead of working and supporting yourself, then you know what? You don't need that free shit. Same thing with these women. There's all these women who go, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do without food stamps. How am I going to feed my babies? Well, you should have thought about that before you opened your legs and made the damn things in the first place. It sounds a little cruel, but it's true. We're not making people responsible for their actions. I have no problem with women wanting to have babies. I think it's a good thing. I think it's great. But I also think they should have a stable home environment to bring those babies up in. They should have a husband, and somebody that's going to provide food and whatever. And if they need a little help, that's fine. Give them a little help. But to literally take care of them while they sit on their dead asses, it's not going to work. And that's what you get. This is what you have now. You got these women that are pumping out kids every 9 months because those kids represent, an extra food stamp that they're going to get. And that's all it amounts to. I'm not sure it's not always that way, but the majority of it is. So yeah, he's going to cut some money off of the programs because it's being wasted. Is it going to hurt the 72-year-old woman who lives, by herself and lives off of her Social Security? No, it's not going to hurt her. She's still going to get her food stamps. She's still going to get her Medicare and Medicaid because she needs it. But for the, and I think Trump always talks about a 27-year-old kid, some guy, who's collecting Medicare and Medicaid and gets food stamps, refuses to get a job, sits on his fucking couch every day, playing on his Xbox, because he doesn't want to work or make anything of his life. Well, he doesn't deserve any of that free shit because he's quite capable of making it on his own. So if the big beautiful bill has got those provisions in there where you have to work to collect food stamps if you're able-bodied, like I said, now I'm 65, I'm retired, I'm disabled, I can't work anymore, so I'm not even asking for food stamps, but if they wanted to give them to me, that'd be fine. Am I willing to work 30 hours a month for it? No, because I can't work 30 hours a month. If I could, you think I'd be sitting here collecting this measly fucking Social Security check I get? Believe me, I don't do this because I want to. I do it because I don't really have a choice. Now, I don't know what all the provisions of the big beautiful bill are. There's some people say that there's some bad stuff in there. There may well be. I don't know. And it's like everything else, we probably won't know until after it passes. I don't know. Like I said, if Trump came up with the ideas, they're probably mostly good. I don't believe Trump wants to hurt the average American. I think he wants to stop the illegals from getting free shit. I think he wants to stop the irresponsible people from getting free shit. And so do I. I mean, and I know people, I have friends that, they would collect that shit if they could. And I'm thinking, but do you really need it? Well, no, but it's free. And that doesn't mean you're entitled to it. If you are entitled to it, fine. But, there's a lot of free shit that I probably qualify for that I don't want, I don't need it, and I'm not going to pursue it. And sometimes, I don't trust the government anyway. They want me to do these wellness things. Well, you should probably do it. No, I'm fine. I don't need it, I mean, everything I need is being taken care of, and that's good, and we're going to leave it at that. And I don't need any extra, Like, I don't want flu shots. I don't want the COVID shot. Why not? Because I don't want it. Do I need a reason? I'll give you 40 of them if you want, but I really don't need a reason. But some people will take something just because it's free. If you offer me something free that I don't need, I probably won't take it because I don't need it, Just the way I am. Always have been that way. Raymond Anthony says it should be limited to only one child. I agree. If you got 10 fucking kids, oh well. Maybe you need some counseling on how to keep your legs closed. I mean, and this is the problem. Every kid you get, it represents a dollar figure. Well, if I have 5 kids, I'll get 5 times the food stamps. I'll eat real good. My kids won't, because I don't give a fuck about them. But I'll get the good food for myself. I'll feed them the junk food, And damn good and well that's how it probably goes down. So, there's some weird shit going on there. Tom says, hey Jim, did you see the photo I sent you via text early today? No, I did not. Let me see what the hell's going on there. Where's the text thing there? My phone did an update the other day. It's not fucked up or anything, but it changed a few things. And I don't know why. Oh, here we go. Yeah, the image here. I didn't even see it. Those look like the, those for the DV20s or the Lightits? Anyway, guys want to see them. There you go. Looks like you had a problem with one of them. You might have to revisit the file. It looks like it might have got corrupt. Now, that's easily fixed, I'd imagine. I got a funny text, but I can't show it to you. It's a little racist from a friend of a friend. Some of these guys get a little crazy with the racism. Even though it's technically correct, but, you know, it is what it is. Alright, let's see here. Okay, it's a lighted holder. That's cool. So both of them did not print. Well, the one on the left didn't look too bad. It didn't look 100%. The one on the right was definitely fucked up. Did you resize them or anything? I mean, was it a file used previously and it worked fine? And for some reason it didn't this time? A lot of questions there that, you know, I don't know if it would help any, but yeah, because I've had things, sometimes they'll print good. I'll go to do them again and they print like shit. And I do them again and they print good again. And I don't know why they didn't print right the second time. Just one of those weird things. Maybe it's the too much humidity in the air. I don't know, you know, I mean. I know if the filament's not completely dry, it could cause some problems like that. But don't you have a filament dryer that you use with your filament printers? So I'm not sure. Like I said, it's one of those things could go either way. Like I said, I was really surprised that my printer printed out that stand as nicely as it. I mean, there were no flaws in it at all. And I expected to see some stringing. And yet there wasn't any, so in the past I've had problems with stringing, and it could have been the filament, you know. I might have got an old batch. I mean, you know, you don't know. You order filament from a company, you assume it's new. You know, it's in a sealed package. But that doesn't mean that, you know, there was a flaw in it and they just repacked it and I'll give it to this guy. He won't know the fucking difference. I mean, that's where I'm at with this stuff. You just don't know, you know. And I know they brought me back to the, if I can see it here. You can see it's a darker gray. That's what I was using to begin with. It's a PLA Plus. Now the last batch I got, they didn't have that anymore. And I got the light, it was a light gray. It was almost silver. It was still PLA Plus. But it was the, they had another term for it. I can't remember what the hell it was now. Like, shit. I can't remember what it was called, but it was slightly different. And it printed slightly differently. Now, I got an excellent print out of this gray, like I used to, where the silver stuff I had, I don't think I have any more of it, but it didn't come out quite as good as the gray did. Now, so could that have, and that could make a difference too. I noticed some colors print better than others. That's why I like the gray. Now the black I have prints out good, but the clear I have, I mean, it's like this here, my phone stand. I printed this on the filament printer with the clear. It's not clear. It's not even translucent. You can't see through it at all, but it's not the best print either. There's a lot of flaws in it. And that's just because of the filament. Because I did one of those in the black, and the black came out perfect. So I think sometimes the filament has a lot to do with it too. Whether it be the color or the type. I still got that gold PETG. I don't know what the fuck. That stuff is, I don't like using it. It may work great on some printers, but it doesn't work well on mine. And I've got like almost half a spool. I got better than half a spool. I don't know what the hell to do with it. I keep trying to print things and they just don't come out good. I've done, because they run on higher temperatures. So I set the higher temperatures. I do everything by the book. It still doesn't come out good. So, like I said, I'm just going to stick with the PLA Plus and screw the rest. But that would be my best guess, that maybe it's the filament, either the type or the color or the brand. I use a Sunlu. I've had good luck with Sunlu, but then again, the last one I got, like I said, it wasn't great. It was a silver. And I can't think of the damn name, what they called it, but it's, really, I'll probably come to me after the show, but it was slightly different than regular PLA Plus. It was still PLA Plus, but they added something to it. And it just didn't print as good as the PLA Plus in the gray did. They said I was getting problems with stringing and other anomalies that shouldn't have happened. I mean, I'm doing good maintenance on the printer, so that wasn't a maintenance issue. Now go figure, right? So, I mean, that's just, par for the course, I guess, part of the whole printing thing. Is some of it's going to be good, some of it won't. It is what it is, The same thing, like I said, these DCC decoder holders, they mount on top of an Athearn motor assembly. And then the decoder board sits on the top here. And these came out fine with the filament, but they came out like shit on the resin printer. Because I resin printed them first. I figured do all four at once, and it should be fine. But there were flaws in it that I did not find acceptable. Why there were flaws? Could have been any number of reasons. It could have been lack of supports. Could have been the orientation. I don't know, but it just didn't come out as good as the filament version did. Go figure. The tank car, well, I did one. I did one with both of them, and then I did the third one, was completely different. I did one with a filament printer. It had lines in the body that had to be sanded down. I did one in the resin printer without the lines. That came out nice. Then I did one using a piece of bathroom sink drain tube, PVC. Cut it to length, and that was my body, and then I just printed the end caps and fit them in there, and that came out perfectly. And that's probably how I'm going to do future tank cars, because the diameter of a sink drain, I think it's 1.25. Yeah, I think it's 1.25 inch inside diameter, and the thin wall It's the exact same size as an HO tank car. You just got to get the length right, you know, however you want the length. So that's the way I'm probably going to do them in the future. I do the end caps in the resin printer. They come out smooth. The frames and stuff, you can go either way. I could do them on the filament printer. They come out fine. Or I could do them on the resin printer. They come out fine. But when I do print the trucks, I always do the trucks on the filament printer. The resin printer, they're too brittle. They don't flex well, and they'll probably break while you're installing the wheel sets. We don't have that problem with the filament. So, like I said, I'm figuring out there's different ways to go about different parts. All right, Andy. Well, thanks for popping in, man. Have a good evening and sleep well, and we'll see you next week. So, yeah, anything you want really, really smooth. The resin printer's got a better chance of doing it. The filament printer, you're not going to get a smooth tube out of it. It's just not going to happen. Just because of the nature of the way it prints, you're going to have the layered lines in there that you really can't get rid of unless you sand them off, and it's a pain in the ass. I did one, and I still didn't like the way it came out even after all heavy sanding on it. But like I said, I did the one at the syrup car. I don't have it nearby here, but I used the PVC drain tube for a bathroom sink. It said 1.25 inch inside diameter, and it worked perfectly. Just printed the end caps for it, and that would made it easier to weight it too. You could either fill it full of sand or actually put metal weights in there. Didn't matter which. Get it to the right weight specification for its size. Put the caps on, and we're good to go. So, you know, I try and perfect anything I'm printing. If I don't like the way it looks, I'll find a better way. Because there's some things that just, you know, if you want to produce train cars and stuff, they have to look good, you know. You can print sloppy shit, but it's not going to look good on your layout. I don't think anyway. So Ray says, I would like to create my own toy train that runs an N-scale track. Well, you could. It could be done. You could print everything you need pretty much. I mean, even a locomotive can be printed. You'll have to get an actual chassis with a motor from a real one, because you can't print that. But you can print the locomotive bodies that'll snap right on the chassis. Yeah, it could be done. N-scale is probably a little simpler to do because you don't have the precision that you would have on a HO scale, for example. It's a little more it's a little more forgiving to print on N scale. That's the nature of it. There's not much you can do about it, but it'd be good enough to look good, though. It would be fine. So they would be loosely based on German narrow gauge trains. Yeah, that'd be cool. Like I said, I don't do N scale. I have a tough enough time with HO scale. I mean, I've had a few guys ask me to print something up in N scale. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. You know, it's too small. And almost anything in N scale you're going to have to do on a resin printer, because you're not going to get good work on a filament printer for N scale. You can get away with it for HO and the larger scales, but for N or especially Z scale, you got to do a filament printer. And even then, there's going to be some question as to the quality you're going to actually get. The Sam's train successfully created a 3D printed locomotive, chassis and all. If he can do it, so can I. Well, you can do everything but the motor, you know. You can't 3D print a motor, it just can't be done, you know. Because plastic doesn't conduct electricity too well. But you could do the body, the chassis, probably even, well, like I said, I don't know about the trucks. I think it would make more sense to buy the trucks, because you want powered trucks anyway. And the motor. And, I mean, you could do your own gear sets and stuff, too. You could print those. But anything that has metal in it, you know, obviously you're going to have to purchase. But, yeah, it could be done. Like I said, I don't know if it'd be worth doing or not. That would have to be your call, you know, whether you felt it was worthwhile or not. Me, I'd be hesitant to print a locomotive. I wouldn't hesitate to print a train car. You know, cabooses, boxcars, hoppers, specialty flat cars, that sort of thing. I would print those all day long, and I do. But I really do stop at a locomotive. I mean, I'm just thinking, I'd just soon buy one. Even if it's a used one, I could clean it up and repaint it, whatever, you know. And even put DCC in it if it didn't have it. And probably still come out ahead, rather than buying a brand new DCC engine. But that's me, you know. And whatever works for you is what you got to do. Says they won't be end scale, but kind of like HON 30. Yeah, well, that'll work. Oh yeah, you said you could buy the motors. It's a can motor with flywheels. They're ready to go. I mean, they're out there. There's parts. The same like I said, powered trucks. You'd probably want to go with that. I think trying to print a truck and then power it would probably be really, really difficult. Hey, Ray Bertelson, what's going on, Ray? Good to see you here. Just getting home from 3 days in the mountains. I'm exhausted. We'll catch you all later. I hear you. That's cool. You watch the replay. Go rest up, man. Gerald says Kato has very good running drive units, 106 and 100. Yeah, they do. Like I said, I'd like to get a Kato, was it F40? No, not F40. Yeah, maybe it is an F40. The futuristic looking Amtrak locomotive. Or maybe it was a P42. Excuse me. Kato has a good one. They have a DCC ready one that literally is designed to convert over to DCC with sound with very little effort. So I think I'm going to go with that. I haven't looked lately, but a few months ago they were down to, you could get there's nice models. They were starting at, I think, $146 for a new one. I said they weren't DCC, they were DCC ready. But I watched a video on how to convert over to DCC with sound, and on that particular locomotive, the Katos, it's a piece of cake. Everything's there, you just drop it in, you know. No real headaches involved in it. I'm going, that's what I'm looking for. So at some point I'm going to get one from my passenger rail. I'd like to get that operation. Of course, I want that to be somewhat automated anyway, to go back and forth. There's stuff out there to make that happen. They had that Motorman trolley unit, or trolley control, I guess you can call it. I don't know if they're back in stock or not, but they haven't been in stock for over a year. So I'm thinking, if I can't get one of those, because that would be the perfect way to go. But if I can't do that, I'll set up something on Arduino. It's easy enough to do with Arduino if you know what you're doing, so it's just a matter of throwing in the sensors and tying it into, but it has to still be DCC no matter how you look at it, so. Because I've seen DC setups, but I want the sound, and I'd like to have it not just go back and forth, but, like actually stop at the station for a specific amount of time, then go ahead and maybe stop in the middle somewhere for whatever reason. I want it to be automated but more realistic, so I'm not in a hurry to get it done, but at some point I will. So, but that seemed to be the best way to go, and like I said, the price is right on them. I could still get a new one without breaking the bank, because I looked at used Athearns. They have them, they're non-DC or DCC ready, but I would have more involved with actually doing a conversion. And even though it's used, it's not that much cheaper. They're still looking at $90 to $100 for a used loco that's in good shape. So, yeah, actually it will, Gerald. Like I said, I would probably go to Tom from Tom's Trains and Things and get his help on that, because he's very well versed with the DCCEX. And like I said, I might go that route too, So, but that's the only real automation I really want on the layout. Some guys like Tom Grass, he's got a lot of automation on his layout, and it's great, I don't really want that much automation, but some things I want, and other things not so much. Like I said, the passenger rail could be fully automated. That won't bother me in the least. But I don't want my main lines automated. I'd sooner just run them, manually. The same thing with, turnouts. All my turnouts are going to be manually controlled. And I'm okay with that. I like pushing buttons, Yeah, I can automate them. It's not like I don't know how. But I want to do the work, And to me, it's like, if everything's automated, you're just watching it do its thing. And it's like, well, you're going to get bored real quick with that, I want to be right there operating this stuff. And, if I throw the wrong turnout at the wrong time, I'm going to have a derailment. And that's okay, because, that's how you learn. And I said, I don't expect perfection. I just want to have fun. And for me, doing stuff manually is the fun part. But that's me, if some guys are in the full automation, that's cool. It works for them. They're happy. That's all that matters. But for me, very limited automation. Like I said, cross bucks and stuff like that, I'd like to have automated. Where it'll be on sensors, so it'll know when the train's coming. I could do it manually, but why? There's only so many. I've only got 2 hands and so many fingers. So, I'm not going to be able to do everything manually. But, like say, in the staging yard, I said, I was talking to Tom Grassfield. He says, well, maybe I ought to automate everything. Run it through JMRI. And I'm thinking, yeah, maybe, but I don't know. I kind of like the idea of, doing manual switching and stuff. And, buttons there. You got to push that one to set that turnout for the divergence track, or, the main line. I got no issue with that. I think it'll be fun to do. It'll give me some purpose while I'm out here playing with my trains. So, but like I said, that's just me. Oh, there's a couple of links. I can't click on them, but because it'll throw me out. I'll check on those later. Thanks, Gerald. So yeah, that's my plan. But I would prefer to print. almost everything I need from here on in. I mean, except for, like I said, locomotives. I still want to get a few more. I want the P72 for the passenger line. I'd like to get a couple more SD40s maybe, or SD45s. I'll probably buy them DCC ready. I've kind of learned my lesson on buying, DCC equipped. I'd rather just put my own decoders in, and you're not saving any money. Maybe in some ways you might even be spending more, but you get what you want, and that to me is more important. And I'm not a big fan of ESU decoder boards. I mean, I've got them in all my scale train stuff, and they're okay, but you still can't beat a Tsunami 2. So, I want to put the Tsunami 2s in everything at some point in time, and I'll get rid of the ESUs and, switch over. But yeah, I'd like to get a few more locomotives. I had a bunch, I sold them. I had a lot of MTH stuff, and I didn't like the way they were set up. Their decoders, I think, are shit. They're like BLI. So I sold them all. I got them at a great price, brand new, and I actually made money off them. Not much, a couple bucks, but, But now I've got to replace what I sold. And like I said, I think I'm going to go with, probably be Athearn, I would imagine. I like the Athearn locomotives. Get them DCC ready, then I can do what I want. Scale train still makes a great train, but even their DCC readies are very expensive. And I still have an issue with the trucks in them. I don't like the truck design on their locomotives. And until they change it to something that's serviceable, I won't be buying any more of their locomotives. Tom says, Jim, when you're ready to switch the ESU decoders out, let me know. Yeah, because you're familiar with the buddy boards and all. I'm really not. No, I'm sure I'll be enlisting your assistance when the time comes. I don't know when that'll be, but yeah, like I said, the ESUs are okay. They get the job done, but as you pointed out, they don't have some of the features that the Tsunami 2s have. Like blowing the horn before starting or after stopping. I mean, you can't do that with ESU. And where it's programmed into the Tsunami 2s, and I just think the Tsunami 2 is a much better board, So, it's like I said, at some point, I'll be doing a conversion over to all of them. Everything I have will be Tsunami 2. Now, a lot of guys are going to the Blue NAMI. I'm really not interested in going to Bluetooth yet. Maybe down the road, I don't know. But see, I like the idea. I have my, my controller here. As some like to call it the power cab. They don't call it a power cab for Digitrax, but right here. I like this. This is a nice unit. Do I want to use my phone in place of it? No. My fucking phone is for making phone calls and limited text messages. Short of that, I try to stay as far away from that fucking thing as possible. I'm not a big fan of the smartphone. And I damn sure don't want to run my trains with one. So James says, Tom, I found out most hobby stores in Canada sell ESU decoders. Well, that's because they're cheaper than the Tsunami 2s. And probably Canadians can't afford the good ones. I don't know. Or maybe that's your preference. There's any number of reasons, but here, I'll sell mine once I take them out. There's nothing wrong with any of them. They work. They're just not what I want. So, Tom says, Jim, I'm planning to come down in October. Maybe you can get one ready. Oh, yeah, there we go. That'd be cool. Yeah, you come for a visit again? That'd be fun. We had such a blast last time. I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to hear that you might be coming down. Yeah, I'll make it a point to get one ready for when you come down if that's what you do. Cool. James says I install ESU because I can't do it, and installers have the programmer. Oh, okay, yeah, well, that makes sense. Like I said, I'm not familiar with, I haven't programmed anything yet, so I don't know, but I know the Tsunami 2 has it all in there. It's just a matter of hitting the right code to turn it on or turn it off. The ESU, you could do some things with it, but it just doesn't have the same features that the Tsunami 2 has. Like, the only feature I found with the ESU is, and it's still a pain in the ass, is I can get my ditch lights to flash. And it's like a 4-step process to make it work. It's a pain in the ass, And they should flash regardless. But you can do it on ESU, but like I said, it's a procedure. I don't like procedures. I like simple. James says, I can't afford to switch them. All that I can understand. And they may wind up getting more expensive than, and that may be a problem for all of us at some point. Who knows? The Gerald says programming a Blue NAMI is significantly easier than programming anything else. Only $30 more per decoder. Yeah, well, like I said, I don't want to use my phone. So I'll just stick with the Tsunami 2s. That's fine for me for now. James says, I purchased with decoders installed. Don't matter what brand. I'm not going to change them. Well, because it's a pain in the ass. Oh, $130 plus labor. Yeah, the labor is probably what kills you. Like I said, I haven't looked lately to see what the decoders cost. Last year they were $100 for Tsunami 2, but they probably went up in price. That's fine, It's not like I got 40 engines I got to swap out. I've only got, 1, 2, 3, 4. I only got like 5 or 6 engines at the moment that have to be swapped out. So, if I do a couple at a time, or if I do 2 a year, that's fine. I don't have to do them all at once. Because once again, I don't have a ton of money either. Well, actually, Gerald, I have a tablet. I have one in the drawer. And I like that about as much as I like using my fucking phone. I don't know. I'm just not big on that stuff, I'd rather just use the controller, and I'm comfortable with it. It does what I want it to do. And I'm good to go with that. So, I mean, for the guys who want to do the Blue NAMI, that's fine. I'm just not one of them. Yeah, see, it's a lot easier on the Tsunami too. Like I said, it's a 3 or 4 step process on an ESU decoder to get it to do the alternating ditcher lights. It's a pain in the ass. I got one to do it once, and it reverted back anyway, and now it won't do it again. So, that's the thing that pisses me off too, Tom says I would rather use a wireless control. Well, the one I have is wireless. If you have I've got line of sight Wi-Fi, but you really want to go with something more Bluetooth, because you don't need line of sight's a pain in the ass. I have my receivers down at that end. I don't know if you can see it from here or not. No, you can't, but it's all the way down on the end there. And if I point at it, I could use it without it being plugged in. And they sell Wi-Fi controllers that I don't think they're Bluetooth. I think they're just Wi-Fi. And I had no issue with that either because it's easier when not being tied to a cable. But I still like the idea of actually using the handheld controller. I don't like using a phone. I don't want to use a pad. Like I said, I've got a pad in there, that I use for the camera train because it's Bluetooth. And that I'm not real thrilled with that either. Like I said, it just depends what you like. Whatever your preference is fine. For me, that's not my preference, but for others it is, and that's cool. And you know damn good well that probably within 5 years they'll come up with something completely fucking new. And we'll all probably be scratching our heads going, why did they do that in the first place? And we'll all want to jump over to it, Who knows? And I saw a controller. It was expensive. It was like $800 just for it was Wi-Fi, wireless. And I can't remember what it was called now, the name of it was, but there was a lot of talk about it a few months ago, but it's really nice because it's laid out like a real locomotive what the controls are, sort of. I can't remember what it's called. One of you guys probably know it and will be able to throw it up, but well, he said it was $800, just for the fucking controller. And I'd love to have one, but that ain't gonna happen. Boyd says, I have a tethered system and can't afford to change to wireless. It would have been nice, but they weren't available when I bought mine. Well, that's it. Mine goes either way. It's like I said, currently it's tethered, but it will work line of sight, remotely. But like I said, depending where you are in the layout, you'd have to point it at that. Otherwise, it ain't working. That's not a good system unless I had them all over the place. So no matter where I was pointing, it would register. But I'm okay with a cable. I would rather have a wireless, but it's not like I got a layout that's so large that I'd have to plug and unplug the cable in different areas. I mean, I could plug anywhere internally, and I'm good to go the whole layout. Well, right now I've got it externally because I'm using it more out here from my desk than I am within the parameter of my layout. That will change down the road, and I plan on buying a second unit anyway. And if it's tethered, it won't be a big deal. Like I said, it's just I can use it wherever. And the cable's long enough to where it literally almost stretches. Well, not quite, but close enough to where I can get to everything without a problem. So, And of course, like I said, money's everything too. I don't have a ton of money to do stuff with. Tom says, I have 2 iPhones and an iPad that I can control the trains, but I like my TCS UWT100 wireless controller. Works great. Absolutely. Jim, I am talking about programming and adjusting CVs, not running trains. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool. And James says, I have 2 UWT 50 plus NCE radio. There you go. That's like I said, whatever works for you is fine. It doesn't matter. I don't think one thing is better than the other, or vice versa. It's whatever works for you, And that's good enough. If you're happy with it, I'm happy you're happy with it, I mean, I don't care, Now, I can adjust my CVs through my controller. sometimes. It doesn't work well with the ESU decoders, but it would probably work better with the Tsunami 2s. I'm not 100% sure on, but you can actually change your CVs on the main track. It can be done. So, but in theory, though, once you get everything set up, you shouldn't need to readjust them. You know, like if you want it to coast a certain way, or a more prototypical stopping or whatever, you set that up on your test track, and once you're happy with it, you put it on your main, and it should do what you want. If it doesn't, then you bring it back to the test track and, you know, change it out. But you know, like I said, I don't really have any issues with any of that stuff. It works for me. Russ says, I love my NCE system for my HO layout. A lot of guys like the NCE. I never used it. I went with the Digitrax because it was actually a little bit cheaper at the time. I got it was on sale. Because normally NCE is a little less expensive than the Digitrax. But I like the Digitrax because it had a more simplistic design in some ways. So that, and I got it, like I said, I bought it on sale, so I went with it. I don't have any problem. I don't have any issue with NCE or, you know, MRH? MRH or MR something. There's 3 or 4 different controller brands out there, DCC setups out there, and hey, whatever works for you is fine, you know. But yeah, the NCC system does seem to be more popular, and the guys who have it really love it, and that's cool. Like I said, I have no issue with the Digitrax, so I'm happy with it. Is it better than NCE? Not a clue. Probably not. You know, is it worse? Probably not. It does what I want it to do, and that's really all that matters, you know. James says, Tom, I like the wireless UWT-50. I can't get the UWT-100 in Canada. That sucks. Yeah, MRC, that was the one. I couldn't remember that. It was something. Now, that's like the lesser of all the 3. But there are people that swear by them, too. So, you know, I think if it works for you, who the hell cares? You know? I mean, comparing NCE and Digitrax is like the, you know, comparing Ford and Chevy. You know, you'll never actually come up with a real winner out of the 2. The Ford guys are going to love their Fords, and the Chevy guys are going to love their Chevys. And that's just the way it goes, you know. So NCE and Digitrax is probably the same thing, you know. It's an endless argument. There is no clear winner. If it works for you, that's all that matters. Tom says, Jim, the only problem with coding CVs on the main line, you must make sure none of the decoders have address 3 in them. Well, that's true. Otherwise, you're going to have big problems. I've done it before. I've programmed on the main line. But I prefer to do it on a programming track that's separate from the main. And, you know, I use JMRI for that. I have everything I need to do that. I have a small section of track that plugs into whatever the unit is. It plugs into the computer and, you know, uses GMRI. But it works for me. Like I said, I have no problem with it. Hey, Steve87, PSAP. How you doing, Steve? Good to see you here, man. So, you know, there are limitations to everything. You got to be careful of everything you do. But if you have a system that works for you, that's all that matters, is that it works for you. It may not work for me, it may not work for another guy, but if it works for you, hell, run with it, man. you know. And same on the opposite end. It doesn't matter. So, so yeah, that's my plan as far as locomotives go. Like I said, the first thing I want to get is that P72, the P42 or P72. I can never remember. I'm getting bad with all these fucking designations. But I'm going to get one anyway at some point. It's probably going to be a Kato, a new one. And I'll convert it over to DCC and sound. And automate it, you know. But we'll see how it goes. Let's see, other than that, well, oh, I still need a new fucking chair in here. I can't afford one because I spent all this money on air conditioners. And I can't afford any more credit than what I already got. So until I pay down some of this stuff, getting another chair in here is gonna probably be next year. And I will get another secret, well, fuck, I forgot what they're called now. The good chair is what I got. The secret, fuck, I can't remember what it's called. But, oh, thanks, Tom. Yeah, P42. I don't know why I can't remember that. You know, I guess I just don't say it enough. Secret Labs, that's it. I'm going to get another Secret Labs chair for in here. It's going to cost almost as much as the one I bought for the main house. And like I said, I have to get it on credit because I just don't have that kind of money to throw down. That was almost $800 I paid for that chair. You know, but tell you what though, best chair you've ever had. If you ever get one, you'll never go back to anything else. And I've had mine now for what, almost a year. And best chair I've ever had. It's still like the day I bought it, you know. And Tom says, Jim, cooling a Mustang. Yeah, absolutely. It's brutal, man. It was, you know, they have the temperature and then they have the real feel, which is bullshit. Because the actual temperature yesterday, for example, was 92. You're thinking, it's not too bad, you know. Then you get to the real feel, it was 104. Well, if it feels like 104, it must be 104, you know. So, I mean, it was, you went outside, it was just like, it hit you like a wall, you know. And it's like, I can't do this. I gotta go back in the fucking house and sit in front of the air conditioner, you know. So, as I said, I've got the two mini splits working now. I got the one in the master bedroom, the one in the second bedroom, which is Debbie's hobby room. They're both working flawlessly. And I want to get a third one for the living room, a bigger unit to really handle the whole middle of the house. I want to get an 18,000 BTU. And it's 1.5 tons, I think. Yeah, 1.5 tons. And that will cool off the living room, the dining room, and the kitchen, and probably by extension a laundry room and a little office area. It should cool off that whole area. But I've got a little portable conventional air conditioner, you know, a roll around thing, in the living room. It's dying. So it doesn't really put out really ice cold air anymore. It's still cold, but it's really struggling to keep the temperature down in the living room. So we did an experiment. We fired up the air conditioner to both bedrooms, which are on each side of the living room. Had the doors open, kicked them down to 70, high fan, and it actually brought the whole house temperature down to around 72, 73 degrees. But the trick is you got to start it in the morning. Once the heat gets in the house, it's not happening. So, of course, another solution is if I get a couple of box fans and put them in the doorway of each bedroom, it'll draw that cold out and force it in the living room. Then it's going to make a big difference. So, I may buy a couple of box fans next month We'll see. They're about $20 in Walmart for a 20 inch, I think, or 24 inch. I don't remember now. I think they're 20 inch. Your basic hurricane box fan, 3 speeds. That'll do the job, But at least until I get the 18,000 BTU unit in the back of the house, it's going to go forward, and like I said, cool off the dining room, kitchen, and living room all together, and probably the laundry room and the little office area, because the office area gets brutally hot in there, because it's, even with the central air, it never cooled that room very well. It's tiny. It's about 5 foot wide by, I think, 13 foot long. It's like, just, we call it the office because it kind of reminds me of an office. It's long and narrow, It was an add-on to the house like a year after they built it. And I guess they wanted to move the laundry room out back too, because they had, the laundry room was actually in the closet behind the garage in front of the second bedroom. Because like I said, if you open the sliding door for the closet, there's a dryer plug there and a dryer vent on the bottom, which doesn't go anywhere anymore. They're actually venting the dryer into the garage, which was kind of stupid. So they moved it to its own room behind the back of the house. It's enclosed as part of the house, but it's an addition. And the laundry room is the same dimensions. It's about 5 foot wide by about 13 foot deep. So it's great for that, but it's very difficult to cool those two rooms, even though they did put ducts in there for the central air. For some reason, it just didn't get in there that well, and they must have been probably 4-inch ducts, because that would be all you could be able to fit in there. So I said the mini splits will solve a whole bunch of problems. And it's nice to sit in a house that's, like I said, in the low 70s inside when it's 104 outside, I mean, here, I got this one set to 74. I'm very comfortable in here, and don't matter how hot it gets out there, it's 74 in here no matter what. So yeah, I'm looking at the thermometer that's on the wall here, and it's 74. So, but outside right now it's 82, with a real feel probably about 97, 98. I'm telling you, it's going to be a brutal summer. It really is, It's going to suck. Well, my neighbor, he put up 2 solar panels. He's got 200 watts on his roof. Now, he's just put a metal roof on his house. I already have a metal roof. I don't want to go punching holes in the roof. I'm thinking of a swing up off the edge of the roof, the fascia. Have it on a hinge and a pivot point where I can raise the cells if I want to use them, or lower them like in the event of a hurricane or something. I don't really want nothing up on my roof. But he took the 200 watt panels. There's 2 of them. He's powering his big refrigerator and a mini fridge with it. I think he's got 2 batteries and an inverter and a charge controller. He showed me his setup. It actually looks pretty good. He says if he takes the power off of the big fridge and runs the mini fridge, it'll run the mini fridge for 6 days straight just on the battery power after the solar panels charge it up. So if he had 6 days of, say, overcast and the panels weren't getting charged, he could still go 6 days just on the mini fridge. Now I have a half chest freezer in the garage, and it's usually filled with meat. And that's my concern, in case of a hurricane we lose power. I'm thinking about converting that over to solar. And I could do the same thing. I could put a 200 watt panel out back one battery, an inverter and charge controller, and that should power that freezer for at least 3 or 4 days, you know. I mean, I have a big generator. I don't have it tied into the whole house yet. I intend to at some point. But my generator is big enough to run the house, especially now that I don't have central air. I could run everything else. I have a gas stove, so the only electric you need for that is to ignite the flame, which is 110 volt. And right now the two mini splits, which, well, one is 120 volt, the other one's a 240. The 18,000 is going to be 110 volt too. And the only reason I put the 220 in, or 240, whichever it is, in the second bedroom, because that's where the main unit was, the central. The power was already there, and I figured it's already there, might as well utilize it, you know. So I took and I cut the condenser out, you know, the central unit, shit canned that, and mounted the mini split on the wall over the pad where the central was, and utilized the power that was there, so I didn't have to run any electricity for it. So that worked out really good. But yeah, I have no issue with solar power. I could see a need for it. I can see where it will work on a small basis. I can't afford to run the whole house on it. I can't afford the Tesla batteries that Tom Grassi has, you know. They're not cheap. And realistically, I could buy a lot of electricity for what those batteries cost, you know. I mean, if I had the money, if I had throwaway money to buy something like that, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But I don't have it, and I'm not going to mortgage the house just to save a few bucks on electricity. It's not worth it to me. So, all right, Floyd, have a good one, man. Thanks for popping in, and we'll see you next time. Oh, you're quite welcome, Floyd. My pleasure to help you out with that. He wants to know, do you have a seam standing metal roof? If you do, there's no roof drilling. They have attached clips. Metal is the easiest roof to put solar on. Well, mine's weird. The house was built with a metal roof. So if you go up in the attic, which you can do in the garage, you could actually see the metal roof. There's no plywood on the roof at all. The metal panels are attached right to the rafters, which I thought was kind of odd, but because they didn't do a conversion later on, they eliminated the plywood on the roof and went straight with the metal panels. Now my neighbor, he just had a metal roof put on his house. He had shingles before. Well, they put, you know, 1x3, I think 1x2 or 1x3 fairing strips on top. Well, they take the shingles off, but they leave the plywood down. They put the fairing strips down, and then they screw the metal panels into the fairing strips and into the plywood and the rafters all at the same time. It's very stable. Mine's very stable too, but it's a little different than your normal metal roof. So, like I said, I just, you know, I have no leaks. A metal roof is good for approximately 80 years. I probably won't live long enough to have to replace it. So I'm not going to fool with it. Like I said, I would just soon attach it to the fascia on a hinge and a pivot rod. And it can, you know, during the year, except for hurricane season, or if a hurricane comes, I'll have it, you know, pointed up where the sun will get it. And if there is a hurricane coming, I could fold it down, and it won't get tore off the building. And that's another problem I have too, you know. And they don't really address this, but there have been occasions where a hurricane will tear the solar panels off of a roof. Does that damage your roof? Well, it might. You know, I don't want to take that chance, so. You know, So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think I'm going to do it on a limited basis. You know, just to power a few things. Like I said, the chest freezer is important. Some lighting is important. I have all LED lighting in the house. They're low draw, low wattage, you know, so I could probably set up some sort of a system to run some of the lighting off the solar panels, you know, with the aid of a battery and the chest freezer, and I'm good to go. The rest of it, I don't give a shit. If I lose power to the house, I could still start the stove with a match, you know. I just won't have the electric igniter, but you take a cigarette lighter, or I have my long fireplace lighter, fires it right up. So, you know, we got everything covered pretty much. We got fire for cooking, and, you know, we have the freezer, which will stay cold for a couple of days. The refrigerator, on the other hand, will not stay cold more than 8 hours, even if you don't open the doors. It's just not, they're not like the old ones where they stayed cold for a few days. These new ones, they just don't hold their cold very well. Let's see. Steve says, yeah, Floyd, I need to go to Israel, Minnesota, Austria, Vietnam, and Germany, and they can't make up their minds. That's all supposed to happen before October. That's weird. Yeah, Steve, it is a strange roof. Like I said, I've never seen one done like that before, but I understand that if it's built that way at the beginning of the house, that's what they do to save money. They won't waste their time with the plywood or the tar paper. They'll just put the panels right on the rafters. I mean, it holds up all right. You know, I've been through 3 hurricanes already, and no damage to the roof whatsoever. So, you know, knock wood. So my guest house has a metal roof. The main house has a metal roof. This train shed has shingles, and my utility shed next to it has shingles. I lost a couple of shingles on the utility shed through the last storm. I haven't lost anything on this one yet. So I'm just kind of keeping an eye on things, but, you know. But that's the way it goes, like I said, so. But, yeah, air conditioning is important here. You can't live without it. I mean, if we didn't have air conditioning, I'd probably be dead already. I cannot take the heat. Never could. You know, I've lived in Florida most of my life. I mean, I came down with my parents when I was 1969. I was 10 years old. For the most part, I've been in Florida ever since. I left a couple of times for, you know, I think a year or less. But for the most part, this is where I've been. I've never gotten used to the heat. And is it really, I mean, there are people saying, you know, it's getting hotter. I don't really think it's getting hotter. I think they're being more honest with the temperatures. You know, before I had the stroke, when I had my automotive repair shop, I had a thermometer in the breezeway in the shade, and there was one summer I saw 113 actual degrees before. Yeah, I mean, they never reported on it, you know. And this was in the shade in a breezeway, 113. And I know my thermometer wasn't wrong because they're accurate, you know. You turn on the TV news, well, 98 today, it was a little warm. And that was before they started doing the real field shit. It was 113 fucking degrees, you know. Then after I had my stroke in '07, I think it was in '08 or '09, a friend of mine that lived a few streets over down in Naples, he had a big, like, 6-car garage attached to his house. He had 3 hot rods in there. And the one I was working on, the purple one, the purple wagon, it's like an old panel truck, you know, from like 46, 47, somewhere around there. But he had V8 in there and, you know, all modernized, but the wiring was a fucking disaster. So he asked me, he says, can you rewire this? Yeah, absolutely, you know. You want me to do it the right way or you want me to do it the cheap way? He said, no, I want you to do it the right way. So I said, all right, it's going to cost you a little bit. I said, you know, I'll give you a color-coded, you know, wiring set up there. I'll draw up a diagram for it. You'll know where everything is. And that's what I did. I did a really nice job. Well, it took me about, not quite a month to do it. But it was, the heat was brutal, you know. Now, we had the big garage doors up, but he didn't really have a breezeway in there, but we had big fans, you know, they're not hurricane fans. Maybe they are hurricane fans. These are like industrial fans. They're like 5 foot tall. Had 2 of them in there, you know. So we had wind blowing, but I mean, at the end of the day, I looked like I just came out of the shower, soaking wet from sweat, you know. He had a refrigerator in there with a pony keg he kept filled with beer. Now, beer is not the best thing to drink on a hot day, but it was better than water, so I drank a little bit of beer. I didn't get drunk or anything, but, you know, I had 2 or 3 glasses for the day. Ice cold beer right on the tap. And it was great, you know, but it was brutal. Well, we finally got a thermometer in there. It was like 118 fucking degrees in the garage. Now, it wasn't that cold. It wasn't that hot outside. It was probably about 110 outside. Like I said, we were in an enclosed area somewhat. But, you know, they don't report this shit. And the reason they don't report it is because it's bad for tourism. The tourists wouldn't come to Florida if they knew it was routinely triple digits. You know, if it's 98 or 99, that's not too bad. We can deal with that. If it's 100 or more, they're thinking, fuck, that's too hot. I'll go to Georgia instead. It's a little cooler there, you know. Or whatever plan they got. Or, you know, they can go to California or whatever. It's always 65 or something like that in Southern California. I mean, it's, you know, the weather's a little different, but so they lie about shit. One year I was up in Indiana, and my dad called me from Naples, and he said, because it was during the winter, you know, I think it was around February. And he says, you okay up there? I said, yeah, why? He says, well, I'm watching the news. They said you're in the middle of a blizzard. You're sub-zero temperatures. No, we're not. You know, I was like in the middle of the state, not the coldest area, but certainly not the warmest either. But, you know, it was just north of Indianapolis, a town called Warsaw. And it was probably about, 14, 15 degrees above zero, you know. It was a little bit of snow on the ground, not much, like 1.5 feet. I mean, it was cold, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like, you know, Eskimo cold. And my dad says, well, the way they're talking, you guys can't leave your houses and you're all snowed in. They're lying, you know. And they found out they did that to keep the tourists down longer. You know, I guess because a lot of older people come down from, you know, the north. They don't have families, you know, that live where they lived. So they don't really know what the true temperatures are. They turn on the local Florida news, and the news says, oh yeah, it's sub-zero up in Indiana right now. You don't want to go back there. You want to wait for it to thaw a little bit, so the tourists stay down here a little longer. I kid you not. It was all bullshit, you know, to keep the tourists here. Like I said, now they're starting, of course, the global, climate change. They're kind of forced to tell the truth, but the thing is, it's not really any worse today than it was 20, 30 years ago. They just didn't tell the truth back then because it hurt tourism. You know, now they'll routinely tell you. It's like I said today, or yesterday rather, it was like 98 and 97 degrees, or 92, whatever the hell it was. But the real feel was 104. Well, it was 104 fucking degrees out there, let me tell you. It was brutal, you know. And of course, people, oh my God, it's climate change. We got to do something. Stop driving your car. Stop the cows from farting, you know. It's all bullshit, you know. It's all based on lies. Trust me on this. That's why most people don't go to Florida, Arizona in the summer. It's hot. Damn right it is. It's fucking really hot, you know. Now I'm not gonna do an all-nighter. I'm gonna knock off at 9 o'clock. So we got like 20 minutes to go. Chuck says anything over 98.6, you're slowly cooking your. That's probably true. Oh, I know, Thomas. My neighbor, Heather's husband, ex-husband now, he went to Phoenix for a few months during the summer to run a food truck for his sister, and he said it was routinely 120 to 130 degrees there. He says you always had to have water with you, and like there was no problem. If you got hot, you could walk into a store just to chill out, because if you stayed outside, you would die of heat stroke. You know, it's a very dry climate. There's no humidity, but hey, look, 125 is 125. I don't give a fuck whether there's humidity or not. You're gonna die in that shit. You know. So he said, you know, the thing is, when you were in the car or whatever, you always wanted to make sure your air conditioner worked. You always had plenty of water, you know, in the car with you, just in case it broke down or something. And, you know, like you said, you were allowed to go into any place that had air conditioning to save your life, because they had a lot of problems. I mean, a lot of people die from heat stroke, so they don't really report on it, but it happens more often than not, you know. And he was trying to get his wife at the time, Heather. He wanted her to move, her and the kids to go over there, and she says, "Are you out of your fucking mind?" In the end, he couldn't make it there either. He came back, and then they got divorced shortly thereafter. But it's brutal, man. You know, and Florida's not really much better. It's just that we've been lying about it, you know. And that's part of the problem, you know. Steve says, when I was joining the Navy, I was in Phoenix for enlistment. While I was crossing a street, a car sat at a light too long and blew out 2 tires. Yeah, I believe it. In the heat of the road. I wouldn't doubt it. You know, I mean, tires are better now, but back in the old days of the biofly, yeah, that shit would happen. You know, it's fucking brutal. And Florida's not really much better. I said, you know, the people that come here, they generally don't go outside during the summer. They stay in their air-conditioned homes, or they go into air-conditioned restaurants or stores or wherever. You know, everybody's car has working air conditioning except for me right now. I got to get mine fixed. My truck's air works great in, but the car doesn't work at all. I got to change out the compressor. But, hey, Thomas Moore, how you doing, man? Station agent. It's rough, man. And I tell you what, when that heat hits you, it hits you like a fucking sack of fucking potatoes, man. It just kicks the shit out of you. And you don't want to do anything. You just want to lay down and either die or go to sleep or something. You know. It like saps your energy. At least it does for me. It does for my wife, too. She can't handle it either. She just like, I can't handle the heat, you know. I said, well, you know, go sit in the bedroom where it's cool, you know. Or come over here with me in the shed. I mean, at least it's cold in here, you know. So, I got to get her in here more often so maybe she can help me out and enjoy the comfort, you know. But, I'm having a tough time staying in the main house because it gets too hot in there, you know. And like I said, I gotta get the third air conditioner in. That may not happen until late summer. You know, with money constraints. So like I said, I gotta pay off the first 2 that I'm paying on. And I had to replace a water heater. That was another $300 shot in the ass. I still gotta change it out, but I've got 2 water heaters in my house. I switched over to tankless heaters when I moved in. Well, our water quality is so bad here in Sebring. I think it fucked up one of the tankless heaters because I'm not getting any hot water out of it anymore. It's lukewarm. Sometimes you get a burst of hot water and that's it. And somebody's telling me you're supposed to run acid through them to clean them. I don't know how the hell you do that without isolating it. So I just went out and bought a new one. I'll replace it and I'll try and clean the old one, and in case, you know, if that were the case, there's a lot of scale or something in there. I'll clean it up, run the acid through it, and I'll keep it as a spare for when maybe the other one will take a shit, you know. Because I know when I took out the tank heaters, I think they were 60 gallons each. One in the kitchen, and there's one out in the garage. The one in the garage handles the bathroom and the second bedroom and the washing machine. And that's it. Where the one in the kitchen handles the dishwasher, 2 bathrooms, and the guest house's bathroom and kitchen sink. Yeah, that's and I should have bought a bigger one, but it's slightly bigger than the one in the garage. I should have bought a lot bigger one, but they're expensive, like I said. So, you know, when my tenant, my mother-in-law says, you know, I'm not getting any hot water. I said, well, let me check it out. Well, shit, we're not getting any either. So I turned it way up to 140, and we're lucky we get 100 degree water out of it, and that's not enough. So, alright, I'll buy another water heater and I'll get it in there. I haven't put it in yet, but I think in the next few days I may have to do it and get that taken care of. Yeah, that makes sense, Tom. But like I said, the tanks, I drained them before I disconnected them. I still had to use a hand truck to move them. They weighed a ton. The scale must have been a third of the way up the tank inside. I didn't cut any of them open, but as heavy as they were, and there was no water in them, it was all scale, you know, rough scale. And I've had a couple of hot water issues on the pipes. Not lately, thank God, but I had 2 leaks where it rotted out the inside of the copper tubing from the scale. And I had 2 sections that had to be replaced. So yeah, the water quality is terrible here. It really is. Like I said, my neighbor told me he knows one of the girls that work in the water department, and she told them, don't ever drink tap water. It'll kill you. That's nice to know. Yeah, people ain't doing shit with this water, and then, you know, if you know somebody and they'll tell you not to drink it because it'll kill you, why don't you fix the motherfucker, you know? So that's why I filter all my water anyway. But so yeah, I got to change that out and get that done. And hopefully I won't have any more disasters coming up anytime soon. I mean, I've literally replaced all the appliances except for the dishwasher. Dishwasher's still going strong. It's a KitchenAid. It hopefully it's all stainless steel, so if it does break, I should be able to fix it. You know, as long as it ain't a board. I do have a trash compactor, although I don't use it because the bags are expensive. But the fridge has been replaced, the washer and dryer has been replaced, 2 air conditioners have been replaced, both water heaters have been replaced. You know, all the toilets have been replaced. Because when we moved here, they gutted all the toilets. They took all the innards out of them. And it was cheaper to buy a new toilet than it was to try and fix the ones that were here. So I just bought all new toilets, and there's 56 light bulbs in the house. Alright, it's massive lighting. They took every motherfucking light bulb that worked out of the house with them. So I had to go out, I bought all LEDs, you know, and it was like, at the time, this was 6 years ago, I think I spent like $400 on light bulbs to replace all 56 of them. You know, it's crazy, man. You know, but the kind of assholes that were living here, they fucked everything up. I mean, they were really mad that I bought the house because they weren't the owners; they were squatters, more or less. And when after the deed was put in my name, and we came in with the the moving truck and shit, and they were still here, and I said, "You guys got to leave. You're trespassing in my house. We're not ready yet." So I got a 45 that says you're going right now. So grab your shit and get out. And they did. I let them out at gunpoint, because they weren't going to be in my house a second more than they needed to be. First thing I did was change all the locks. I had planned on doing that anyway. And I told them, I catch you back here, I will shoot you next time. You will be trespassing. This is my house. You're no longer welcome here. Now get the fuck out, So they were really mad that I bought the place because they were living, basically living free here. The owner of the house put her son in charge. He was probably close to my age. Like, he didn't have any control over anything either. He didn't really care one way or the other whether the house got sold or not. But the squatters that were here, and that's what they were, there were 7 of them, they didn't want to leave. Well, I made them leave. I have no time. I have no tolerance for bullshit. Yeah, see, I wasn't aware of that, Gerald. Um, I don't have a water softener either. Maybe I ought to put one in. See, I didn't know that you're supposed to. I had a tankless heater down in Naples. I bought a big one. It was a 3-breaker unit. I paid almost $1,000 for it. It was from Canada. It was a damn good thing. It had a 30-year warranty on it, I only had it for about 10 or 12 years. Never had a problem with it, Of course, we had better quality water down in Naples, too, but I was never really ever said anything about cleaning them or flushing them, So I didn't know anything about it. Now you're telling me that there should be a bypass system in there so they could be flushed. I wasn't aware of it. I've never seen one with one. I mean, I've seen tankless heaters in other houses. They're set up just like mine. There's no bypass on them. So it must be something fairly new that they decided they needed, That's good to know, though, because like I said, I mean, even if I have to disconnect it, there's nothing to disconnect it and run acid through it, like off the wall to clean it out, or whatever you got to do to clean it. I wouldn't mind doing that once a year, if it kept the unit clean. Like I said, my units have been in there for, going on 6 years now. So, it's very possible that that's probably, I'm sure that's the only thing wrong with it, because it's not dead. I mean, it still produces hot water on occasion. It's just not consistent. Like I was washing my hands today in the kitchen sink and I almost burnt my hands. That's how hot it was, because like I said, I got to turn up to 140. But then after a minute, it wasn't hot anymore. It was lukewarm. So it's not maintaining the heat. And so, I mean, the thing actually does work. But I did discover one thing. Like, there's a problem with, I have a filter on my shower in the second bedroom because it has a shower in it. I don't do bathtubs. And if that filter gets plugged up, because you're supposed to change it every year, and it's due again, by the way. If it gets plugged up, you lose the hot water to some degree. And I guess it's the way the on-demand system works. If there's any resistance in the system, it won't heat the water properly. Probably a safeguard. And that's one of the reasons. That's one of the best indicators. No, it's time to change the filter because I don't get consistent hot water. So, but that's the only thing I have a filter on, as far as running water goes. Let's see. Joe says, we have a tankless heater that we get serviced once a year. That's probably a smart idea. I said I'm gonna have to look into that and either set up a system to flush it or even call somebody in to do it. You know, can't cost that much. But I already got the new one, so I'm gonna put it in and I'll just pay closer attention to it. And I said I'll take the old one out, I'll clean it, or see what's going on with it, and if that's what it is, then I'll know and I'll know how to handle it. Chuck says, Jim, I think we experience the same temperatures. We might be a little hotter in the summer, July, August, but you have better temperatures in January and February. That's true. It's a trade-off, I suppose. Hey, Mom and Son Train Rail fans, Tammy and Ray. How you doing, Tammy? Haven't heard from you in a while. You still turning out videos? I don't get any. I haven't seen anything on YouTube lately. I figure you're probably pretty busy. James says, Gerald, I got it installed to give more room for trains. Hey, that works. You know, tanks are a pain in the ass. Plus, they're not efficient, you know. The tankless water here, it's hot water on demand. If you're not using it, you're not spending money heating the water. Where your tank, you're always heating the water practically, and you're just watching the your electricity go away. I mean, it's just I think it's one of the most brilliant things they ever come up with. And Thomas Moore says, on Memorial Day, me and my parents were going to see my brother in Murray, Kentucky. We encountered a road rage guy flipping us off, honking his horn, and cussing us. He wanted to fight. Oh man, that sucks. Joe says, Jim, search on YouTube how to flush a tankless water heater. Not hard to do. You need a pump and a 5-gallon bucket. Okay. I'll check that out, Gerald. Thank you for that info, man. It would make sense because, like I said, the water quality's terrible here. And judging on the tanks, how bad they were. I don't know if they were original to the house or not, but they must have weighed an extra 75 pounds. Just from all the shit that was inside of it, Tom says, Jim, trick I learned, put a can of beer in a plastic bag, then wrap the plastic bag around your shower head. It's amazing how clean it looks after it had been in there for a while. Really? Huh. That's weird. Kind of cool, though. Damn, he says, yes, a couple a day redoing our O-scale layout. How bad. Yeah, James, you'll be fine. Like I said, if you're suffering from AFib and they tell you can do the surgical procedure, go ahead and do it, man. Trust me, it's the best thing it's the best money spent. And, it won't cost you anything, but it really is the best way to go. The drugs, I'm not a pill. I don't like pills anyway. And I would much rather just have it fixed permanently and not deal with it. Russ says, I have a Sears Kenmore tank heater with roto swirl. I installed it in 2000. Still going strong. I have not replaced any parts on it yet. Man, I miss Sears. Sears Kenmore tank heater with roto swirl, huh? That's weird. Hey, if it works though. My dad bought one from Sears. It wasn't a roto swirl. I think it was probably their budget line, and within 2 years it started rotting, and I took it out and I put the tankless in. So I said, I think we had 3 or 4 water heaters in there in 20 some years. I don't know why, but they just rotted, from not from the inside, but from the outside, Craziness. Been watching your update videos and the 3D print one. Cool. Russ, they were made by Rheem. Well, see, that's the tankless heater I just bought. It's made by Rheem. So the other two in the house are made by Rheem too. At the time, Home Depot, that's all they carried. Now, he said the one I bought in Naples was from Canada. I don't remember the name of it. It was a massive unit. The thing was like this, you know. It was about 2 foot tall, 1.5 wide. Took 3 breakers, you know. It was overkill. I didn't need one that big. But I says, you know, I'm a firm believer in overkill, so I bought it. I installed it. Like I said, the breaker box was right there next to it, so adding the extra breakers weren't a problem. And plumbing it in was easy. And like I said, man, it did a beautiful job because we only had 2 bathrooms in the house. The back apartment had its bathroom, shower, and sink and all. And then a kitchen, a full kitchen in the back, full kitchen up front, our bathroom and shower. We didn't even have a dishwasher in either apartment. So basically it was mostly just for the showers, you know. And it was great. We could both take showers. I could take a shower. My tenant could be taking a shower simultaneously. Nobody lost water, you know. It was great. So, well, like I said, that thing, I think it was $980, something like that I paid for it. I bought it back when they were still fairly new, you know, the concept. And like I said, I got on the internet, and it was a Canadian company. And I had to pay for shipping, too. That was not cheap either, but best money I spent on a water heater. Russ says, I keep water heater breaker shut off when not being used. Oh, there you go. That's one way to do it. James says, we use gas. Have a gas water heater? Yeah, that's cool. And Tom Moore says, Jim, did you... No, I haven't even been up there to look. It's been too damn hot out. And the next time I'm up there, you know, maybe on a cool day, I'll go looking for one, but it's been so damn hot, I'm trying to avoid the outside altogether. But I'll keep my eyes open. Russ says gas is banned in my neighborhood. Well, yeah. That's because you live in a fucking blue state, man. Don't even ask why, James. There's no good reason. They think it's going to save the planet by doing away with gas, you know. There was talk that they, on a federal level, they wanted to ban fireplaces and fire pits. I have a fireplace and I use it every winter. Fuck you. I'm going to continue using it. My fucking property. I'll decide what I burn and what I don't, you know. But that was all. It was causing too much pollution. Bullshit. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. See, Russ, just throw it out there. Democrats. Exactly. So that's all about fucking Democrats. You know. They want to do it. They want to kill off all the cattle to stop the cow farts from, you know, causing climate change. You know, cows have been on this planet since day one. Why is it a problem now with cow farts when it wasn't before? You know. And cows aren't the only things that fart. We fart. How come human farts aren't the problem? There's 8 billion people farting at some point in time or another. And that's not a problem, but there's only 1 billion cows on the planet, the last I read anyway. They're farting, and that's a problem. And I know cows have 3 stomachs, so even if you counted that as 3 times, that's only 3 billion cattle farting. There's still 8 billion people farting. And let's not forget dogs, cats, all mammals. Because if you're a mammal, you're farting. You know? It's bullshit, man. Democrats want us to freeze to death. Seems like it, doesn't it? Fucking idiots, I'll tell you what. Anyway, it's 9 o'clock. I gotta wrap this up. That came up pretty quick, didn't it? So anyway, guys, it's fun talking as usual. We covered a shitload of subjects. And, and Tom goes, that's because the cows are always farting into the air. Well, where are we farting? Everybody's farting into the air, aren't we? Not like you're trying to contain it. The problem is all the fat asses in Walmart. Yeah, maybe. Fat asses farting, right? I don't know, guys. That's weird. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to throw up the outro. We'll see you next week. Hopefully we'll have more to show you on the layout. And God only knows what we're going to be doing next week. Well, we'll see. And so until then, enjoy the week ahead. Play with your trains. And have fun, man, because you only live once. We'll see you later. Bye for now.